Assalamu alaikum, my dear students of biology. Today we are going to study about a very important topic, which is respiration. So at the end of this lesson you will be able to learn about the process of cellular respiration in cells and the two types of respiration. Respiration. It is an energy releasing process. It means it gives us energy. We are studying about cellular respiration. It takes place in all the cells. Don't confuse respiration with breathing. Breathing is just exchange of gases. In our bodies, breathing occurs with the help of lungs and mouth, nose, the trachea, they are involved in it. But respiration occurs in our body in every cell, in mitochondria. Fuels burn and carbon hydrogen bonds break. As a result, energy is released. Here, in our case, fuels mean the food. Food has carbon hydrogen bonds. Glucose is an example. Its formula is C6H12O6. So, CH bonds. Actually, they are chains of carbon and hydrogen bonds. Along with that, there are many different atoms also, like oxygen, nitrogen, but the two main atoms are carbon and hydrogen. So, what happens? They burn, they break, and release a lot of energy. That energy we use for our daily life activities, and our cells use that for performing their tasks. These CH bonds break and release energy. So, what is cellular respiration? It is a process by which cells in plants and animals break down sugar and turn it into energy. Two types of respiration: aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. Aerobic means with air, with oxygen, and anaerobic means no air, means no oxygen. So, aerobic respiration takes place in the presence of oxygen. In this process, maximum release of energy occurs. It gives us a lot of energy, maximum energy. In this process, glucose is completely broken down to give us energy. Whereas in anaerobic respiration, this is the process which occurs in absence of oxygen. No oxygen is there, and it gives us less amount of energy because glucose is not completely broken down in this process. Aerobic respiration, it's a complete oxidation of glucose. There are two phases. What happens in first phase is that one glucose molecule is broken down into two 3 carbon compounds. Then in second phase, molecules of pyruvic acid are completely oxidized to carbon dioxide and water. All energy is released, as we know that maximum energy is released. This is the overall reaction for aerobic respiration, that glucose and oxygen means glucose is broken down in presence of oxygen to give carbon dioxide, water, and energy. Main thing is energy. Anaerobic respiration, glucose is incompletely oxidized because there is no oxygen. So here again two phases. In the first phase, which is similar to aerobic respiration, one glucose molecule is broken down into two molecules of pyruvic acid. But in second phase, the pyruvic acid is not completely oxidized. It is converted into ethyl alcohol or lactic acid. And the overall reaction is that glucose is converted into lactic acid along with little bit of energy. Fermentation, the chemical breakdown of a substance by bacteria, yeasts, or other organisms, is fermentation, and it gives off heat. Here is an example that sugar and yeast, they join in the absence of oxygen. Remember to look at this minus sign. It gives off carbon dioxide and alcohol. This phenomena of fermentation has become very popular and important in the baking, in cooking, in fermentation, in brewing industry. A lot of juices and the bakery items, they are using this process, and many products are formed through this fermentation process. Alcoholic fermentation, it occurs in bacteria and in yeast. Pyruvic acid is broken down into alcohol and carbon dioxide. The equation for alcoholic fermentation after glycolysis is pyruvic acid forms alcohol and carbon dioxide. Lactic acid fermentation. It occurs in skeletal muscles of humans and animals. We ourselves, they perform aerobic respiration mostly all the time. But if we are doing some strenuous exercise and we are working on some extreme activities, then the oxygen in our cells is consumed. At that point, our cells also undergo and switch off to anaerobic respiration. So what happens in that lactic acid fermentation takes place. So during extreme physical activities, each pyruvic acid is converted into lactic acid. It gives us a little bit of energy. Let's move on to the importance of fermentation. Early organisms respired anaerobically. We know that when the earth was formed, at that time, those simplest organisms, they didn't get oxygen. So they respired anaerobically. They got energy for their life activities. And such organisms are called anaerobes, which respire, which get energy in the absence of oxygen. And human beings are also the example, but only during extreme physical exercise. Through this fermentation process, as I told you, that science and technology are taking use and taking benefit of this fermentation process, and baking and brewing industries are using it for making cheese, yogurt, even soya sauce preparation also utilizes this. And cakes, bread, bun, these all are using fermentation. Pizzas, the pizza dough, it rises due to the presence of yeast in it. Let's wrap up today's lesson that glucose is converted into pyruvate, and when oxygen is present, it performs aerobic respiration and release a lot of energy in the form of ATP. But in absence of oxygen, it goes undergoes the process of fermentation. Then there are two types of fermentation: alcoholic fermentation and lactic acid fermentation. Tomorrow we are going to study the mechanism of respiration. Thank you. Take care, class.